everyone, this is a tutorial on this brown smoky eye look. So I've already done my brows using the cream Splurge in Proud, so I'm just going to set kind of prime my eyes using the cream Splurge in Victorious, which is a beautiful matte kind of nude shade. Now the reason why I like to use this sometimes instead of the primer is because they have kind of a powder finish, so when you actually use the palettes and things like that, they really blend nicely with it. You don't have to set it with a light powder like some people like to do with actual primers. So I'm using palette 4 for this look. So I've just taken the lighter brown shade with a really fluffy brush and just blended it into the crease for my transition shade. Now this is still exactly the same shade, but it's just a bit more of a denser, fluffier brush, so it just picks up that little bit more pigment, making it a little bit more, I'd say vibrant, but obviously it's not a vibrant colour. But it just makes it a lot more pigmented and more true to the kind of shade that it looks in the palette. So I'm just again taking that fluffy brush and kind of blending those two together. Like I said, even though it's the same shade, because it looks like two different colours, you just want to kind of blend them together so that there's no harsh lines. Now going into Brave, which is a darker matte brown as opposed to the Arrogant shade. So again, just going in with a fluffy dense brush, literally just tapped the brush onto the product, just picking a little bit of it up. And then you can gradually build up your shadow this way, as opposed to taking big swipes of the pigment and then putting way too much on your eye. So it's always easier just to add a little bit each time and slowly build it up to your desired depth. I'm only really going up to my crease with this shade. I'm not really going any higher, simply because I am using that fluffy brush with no product on it, just to kind of blend them all together. So because I do like a little bit of shimmer, but I wanted this mainly to be kind of a matte-ish look, so I didn't go overly shimmery with that. I just kind of dabbed a fluffy brush into it a little bit and then just kind of dabbed it over the top of everything, just to give it a nice kind of shimmery light effect. Okay, so I'm actually not wearing my foundation just yet. This is just because that if you wanted to do a smoky eye and you didn't want to be ruining your foundation, if you actually do your lids first, not underneath your lashes, but if you used to do your actual lid first and then do your primer and foundation, this just helps not basically wreck what you've just worked, creating your flawless face. In case you get any fallout from the palette. You don't really get that much fallout, but it's always easier to do it this way, just mainly as a just in case. So like I've said before, this concealer should last you roughly a year. You really do not need a lot of it. I like to use the concealer to kind of brighten up my face, so underneath my eyes. Now I am blending this with my finger. You can use a brush, you can use a beauty blender, it's completely up to you, but sometimes I like using my fingers with this concealer because it's not too thick, but it is a bit of a thicker concealer, where the warmth of your fingers actually kind of melt it, so it becomes thinner, so it's actually a lot easier to blend it out. So I like to put the concealer under my eyes, on my forehead, my nose and my chin. And you do want to set the areas that you apply the concealer as well, so this is just the setting powder. So I apply this using a damp beauty blender. You can use a brush as well, but I tend to find that a dampened beauty blender really kind of melts it into the concealer, giving you an extra flawless look. So just giving me a little bit of warmth around my cheekbones, and I also put this on my forehead, so this is the bronzer. This one is in the lightest shade, which is Sunset. There are 3 shades, but because I am pretty pale, I tend to go with this one. Now, going into palette 4 again, and I'm just using a blush brush, but I've squeezed it between my middle finger and my thumb to kind of create the brush to be a little bit flatter. And you can actually use this to contour with. You can also use it for your brows. Then just taking a bit of a smaller angled fluffy brush, I'm just squeezing it and then just lightly contouring my nose. I don't really tend to overly contour my nose. I'm not really that, you know, I quite like my nose the way that it is, so I don't really tend to do that much. But I suppose if you do like to overly contour your nose, palette 4 will still be great for that. Going in with a little bit of sophisticated blush. Now, as I've said before, this one is highly pigmented, so you really only need a little tap of your brush into the product. There are lighter shades where obviously you don't have to be as safe with it, let's say. But I do tend to quite like Arrogant. I find it quite a nice, kind of a summery blush. So I'm just going into a little bit of Arrogant, so that's the shade that I use for my transition shade, on a really fluffy brush, and I'm just smoking my lower lash line. I'm also slightly winging the shadow out. Not much, just really lightly. This just kind of gives your eye that slight cat eye effect without being too dramatic. But you see how the shimmer hasn't overly shimmered my eyes. It's not like a really metallic kind of look. It just gives a little bit of kind of a dimension, or whatever you want to call it, to your lids. So this is the eyeliner pencil in the shade Proper. So as you can see on the back of my hand, it is a true brown shade. So you can use black and you can use the white if you really want to, but because this is a very brown smoky eye, I figured why change it, just stick with the brown shades. So just adding a little bit of inner corner highlight. If you guys have never done this with any of your makeup looks, I highly suggest you try this trick out. It is brilliant. It actually almost completely changes the way that your eye makeup will look. You can also do it if you are going for a more natural kind of a look. It really brightens up your eyes. It's a really good trick, especially if you look quite tired. You really need to try it out. As this is just the Transplanting gel, I'm not doing fibres with this look. You may wonder why I'm holding my wand with a tissue wrapped around it. I kind of broke my wand. I was wiggling it around instead of pumping it, the mascara wand, into the like component part, and it broke in my hand because I'm not exactly light-handed with it. So Tender actually is a gorgeous highlighting shade, so that's the shade that I use for my inner corners. You can also use it on your brow bone area. I do love using it as an actual highlighting colour. I mean, look at that, the way it just glistens. It's not an in-your-face kind of highlight either, but palette 4 is truly one of the most versatile palettes that we have, because of the brown shades and this Tender highlight shade. So that's the highlight, guys. Okay, so I'm just wiping off that exfoliator that I put on my lips earlier. I do like to leave the exfoliator on for as long as you possibly can. This just really softens your lips and makes them really super smooth. So I'm only going in with a lip bonbon today, which is a tinted lip balm. This is the shade Red Velvet Cake, which also actually makes a great blush as well. So this is the end of the video, guys. I hope that you enjoyed it, and I'll speak to you all soon. Bye!